Okay, so to start, we're going to base coat our cup, so you can use whichever color you'd like for your base coat. It doesn't necessarily matter as much for this particular design, and also it doesn't need to be completely streak-free as it is going to be entirely covered up with glitter and paint later on anyway. So I'm just going to do just kind of a thinner coat to cover the entire tumbler. Like I said, if you have streaks, that's perfectly fine. We're not applying our glitter with our paint. We're just going to let that paint dry, and then we're going to apply our glitter in the next step with the epoxy method. So once my paint has completely dried, I'm just going to mix up 5 milliliters each part A and B epoxy. And for the epoxy method, you only want just a very small, thin amount of epoxy when you're applying your glitter. Otherwise, what will happen is your glitter will essentially absorb that and it'll kind of leave it with a dull look. So only a tiny amount will work for this. And you'll just continue to spread it all over the cup, don't forget the bottom, and then we're just going to dump our glitter on. Now again, because this is a matte kind of glitter, it's not like a sparkly normal glitter, you will see streaks, but again, that's perfectly fine because this is also going to be covered up as well. So I'm just going to cover the entire tumbler and then we're going to let that cure. Once that's cured, I'm going to go ahead and mix up 10 milliliters each part A and B epoxy, and I went ahead and already mixed up my 3 glitter colors together and poured it into an individual cup. You can do this however you'd like. If you wanted to sprinkle some of each color individually, you can. I liked the color that it created when I mixed all 3, so that's what I did here, and then I'm just going to very lightly sprinkle that on after I've applied my epoxy. So I'm just spreading the epoxy on in a relatively thin coat, a little bit thicker than what we did for applying our glitter, but you still don't want a ton of epoxy here because we're going to be applying glitter over this as well. So I don't want this new glitter mix to fully cover the glitter that we've already laid down, so I'm just going to kind of lightly sprinkle it along the cup until it is covered enough, but to where some of that neon orange is still showing through. Once that's covered to how you like, you're just going to let that cure. One thing not shown in the video here is with the chunky glitter, you want to make sure that you are pressing down any of those pieces. You do want it to lay completely flat on your cup. You don't want any of those chunkier pieces sticking up. So once that's cured, I went ahead and mixed up 15 milliliters each part A and B epoxy, and then we're just applying that over the entire tumbler and we're going to let that cure. Now, before we get to the paint in the next part, you do want to make sure that you sand down your cup and if needed, apply another layer of epoxy before the paint. Otherwise, every one of those little divots or bumps that you have will show through in the spray paint. So for the power wash method here, I'm just using the Dawn power wash and then I'm just spraying that on in random spots, and you do need to work quick here because it will start to run. So once you've sprayed with the power wash, you're just going to use the spray paint and then you'll rinse that off immediately after. Once your spray paint has completely dried, now we're just going to clean it up, and you can choose to do this method or not. It's just kind of how you want it to look. I wanted mine to be a mix of the power wash method, but I also wanted to control some of those spots and remove a little more of that paint. So first what I went and did is just took a little alcohol swab and then I just kind of went over the spots that had excess paint and just cleaned it up a little bit so my glitter spots were clear. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to remove a little more of that paint, so I'm just using this little dabber tool which is typically used for alcohol inks. It just has a piece of cotton on the end, and then I am using acetone, which is going to more heavily remove the actual paint. And I know right now it looks very blurry and messy, but we're going to clean it up, so it's okay. So now I'm just coming back over those same spots with another alcohol swab, and then I'm just cleaning up that extra paint to get rid of that mess. And I'm just going to continue doing this all around the cup until I'm happy with the outcome of it. So now I'm going to take my cat scratch tape, and I've already went ahead and cut out my design that you guys would have received as the free download, and it is a double-sided tape, so I'm just removing the first paper backing and I'm going to place it on my tumbler over the paint or over the glitter, whichever you prefer. And then we're going to just remove the outer edge of the backing. So you'll see the design is still left in the middle with the paper backing, which is exactly what I want for this next step. Now for my design, what I did is I just kind of cut like a wavy, jagged edge around the outside for this next part here. So when I applied my tape and I'm getting ready to apply my mica directly onto this, it's going to be the essentially background for my design. So I'm just using a little eyeshadow brush, and I had a scoop of my mica, and I'm just going to rub that all over directly onto the tape. It's fine if you get it over the design itself because we're just going to peel that back anyway. So just make sure that you rub it in really good and then brush off any of that excess mica. So now I'm just going to remove the paper backing from the other part of the design. You just want to be slightly careful when you're doing this here that you don't pull any of that excess mica onto the tape, because it will stick and that will make it harder for your next transfer to actually stick to that tape here. So I'm just taking my little foil sheet here, and then I'm just going to press it down and just gently rub it in using the little spatula tool here, and then you're just going to remove that back and it will have stuck flawlessly. You'll see in this next part here that I'm removing the actual letters. I just did this separately just so I didn't have to worry about any of the extra foil sticking or messing up my mica, but you can do it all at once or separate like I did here. And you'll see the foil, even with these little tiny details like this, still will transfer perfectly onto where you need it to go. So I highly recommend this method for applying the foils. So now that I've transferred it, I went back over with this bristled brush that I have, and it kind of gives it almost like a burnished look. You don't have to do that step, that's entirely up to you. I just prefer this method as I think it looks nicer. Not shown in the video, but I did go back around the edges of my design just with the foil adhesive, and I applied just a small amount of the foil just to kind of add that extra gold in there. I did not seal the design, I didn't feel the need to, my mica didn't transfer, nothing moved, so if you choose you can definitely seal it with quick coat or triple thick, but I just went in and I mixed up, again, 15 milliliters each part of my epoxy, and I'm just applying that over the entire tumbler, and then we'll just let that cure, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this special edition CultureCon crate, and I can't wait to see your results.